Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, your favorite Giants podcast. I'm your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, in his specs, and we are ready to discuss a second in a row Giants victory. So, happy podcasts tonight. The Giants 31, the Jets 12. Cranky, how are you feeling after watching this game?
Very excited, Grump. Fun weekend. I was out in San Francisco for the Cranky series. I beat Cranky Wife. My Rays beat the Giants and red-eyed home. I had doctor work today, so I'm up on fumes. But you know something, we're talking about a giant victory, whether it's Super Bowl 56 or beating the Jets in August. Let's talk about it. It's fun.
I I don't want to spend any time on the silliness that's going on in the world of Twitter for Jets Giants. Not really, anyway. But one thing I will say, and this was something I texted you actually, um,
Mhm.
I do wish that the Jets Giants rivalry was for something other than this stupid preseason game. Because, you know, for all the things that have come from it, and you can pull the highlights of I believe it was the preseason game where Eli Manning had his helmet pop off and then he got busted up in the head and he's bleeding from the skull. And you have the Victor Cruz thing. You know, there is some cool stuff, and like there's a natural. I mean, I think the actual rivalry between family members is like bigger than the actual rivalry between football fans.
Well,
And but what did I text you? I said, like, you know, with this 17 game season, if I were commissioner, I'd keep that normal 16 game rotation, and with that extra game that's a flip flop of home field advantage every other year, make it a rivalry game. Make it the same game every year. Jets Giants every year at 1 week across the league. That's like local rivalries or whatever you can muster, and I would love that. That would be
hey,
awesome.
hey, I mean, the SEC basically does that. I mean, they rotate the teams around. I mean, okay, the NFL rotates teams around, but it's based on you know, other divisions and a form for strength of schedule. But at the end of the day, it's a rotation. But yeah, especially because it's like the extra game, and it's always you're going to be away or you're going to be home for it. And I was counting it up after we were talking about it. So there would be 16 games in that extra week. And maybe you make it all the same week. You have its rivalry week.
I think it should be the same week, but go on.
Yeah. So if there's 16 games of that, you probably have 10 to 12 that are natural rivalries right off the bat. So people are like, well, what if they're not rivalries? The vast majority of them are. I mean, you just right off the top of your head, Jets, Giants, Rams, Chargers. I mean, they're both in LA, whatever. Uh, Commanders,
Ravens,
Ravens, Eagles, um,
Steelers,
Steelers,
yeah.
uh, Dallas, Houston. I mean,
I would
we're
say
naming
I
this
was
off.
I was thinking about this. Is it Dallas, Houston, or is it Houston, New Orleans, and Dallas, Kansas City? Remember, Kansas City is aren't they a product of Dallas first?
No, no, I would say New Orleans, Atlanta, because they've been in the division for such a long time, and,
Yeah,
and they're
but
kind of
they but
well,
they
they're,
already
they're,
play.
they're
That's
division games. They're division. Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, you have natural geographic or just historic rivalries. Like you could even say something like Dallas, like a historic rivalry, Dallas, San Francisco.
hmm, yeah.
They play every year or something. Something that always resonates. And so, and the ones that aren't, guess what? If you play every year, you'll become a rivalry pretty quick.
Yeah, it's just gonna
You beat
happen out
them,
of natural shit talking.
you beat them, they beat you. You beat them, they beat you. Guess what? You hate each other. So it happens. It happens in college all the time. It happens. Rivalries shift because of familiarity and playing each other, and if they're kind of even. And in the NFL, you're gonna have a lot more. It's not gonna be like college, like, whoa, the Gators beat Kentucky 35 in a row. I mean, other than us playing Philly or Dallas, unfortunately, it tends to be a lot more even, over 10 games, 15 games, 20 games. The record is closer to 500. So I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, it's you know, you want it, you want these they want to suck as much money as they want out of ticket sales and, more importantly, TV ratings and revenue. I I would go watch, like, Steelers and Eagles, just like, oh, that's interesting, as opposed to, just something random, an extra game against some who cares team.
Yeah, yeah, I agree because maybe it won't be like a divisional. I don't know. It's gonna mean something to you. You're gonna want it, and it's gonna be one of those things. And I'm sure this is how you feel about college too. Is that even if you're out, let's just say the Gators go, they have a 5-win season, right? That's terrible.
No,
But what if if one of those 5 wins is against Florida State? It's okay.
oh yeah, and I would not do it like the college model where you usually play your big rival the last game of the year, because I like
I'd almost do
the
it
season.
kickoff, first week.
That's interesting. You're starting off, so you're not playing division rivals. So it's almost like a de facto, especially the way teams treat the first couple of weeks is almost like glorified preseason anyway, because they're not really preparing. You're starting against a team that's not in your division. So and maybe probably not even in your conference. Yeah, I
Ideally, I
like
think,
that.
yeah, that's what I
I
think.
like that. I like that. I think that's a really solid idea. So you start the season off against your geographic rival. You end the season with a division rival.
Yeah, and the Division One is going to always count for more. But I mean, I don't know it. Starting the season against a rival, what is going to get you amped up more for the start of a season than that?
Sure. And not only that, everybody's 0-0 to start the season. Everybody's excited the opening weekend. You haven't been beaten down by a year.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't been beaten down if you have a bad record. Well, the coach got fired, or my quarterback's out for the year, or whatever. It's hope is hope is that it's season high in week one. Everybody's healthy. You think you have a shot. You're the weather's kind of nice. You have that first cookout with the family. Wearing different uniforms. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm full of those great ideas. What did you think? What did you think of?
Full of something.
We'll start right off the bat with starters on offense. So we'll save our Jaxson Dart talk, and we'll have a much longer Jaxson Dart talk this week than last week, since we barely talked about him all last week. But the starters on offense, they did play for a lot longer. Russell Wilson, I think, played for a quarter and a half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit more. What do you think?
Well, the most important thing for me, the two most important things for me is no one got hurt, but they played. They're getting reps. To me, everybody's so quick to grade for preseason, everybody's performance. To me, your starting unit, I'm not so concerned about the grades as I am about the execution and the reps. This is still training camp. These are still preseason games. And the fact that, how many snaps has Russell Wilson had now? He's had a hell of a lot more than Daniel Jones did at this time last year. He's more prepared to play week one than Daniel Jones was last year. And hopefully we'll see a non-sleepy team in week one. So that alone to me is the most important thing. Now, what we actually saw were things that, we saw a pretty decent run game. We saw some pretty decent pass blocking. We saw Russell Wilson taking more and more control of the offense. We saw them, throw a bomb early on, which, I know we don't necessarily game plan against opponents in preseason games, but he put some air under a ball for one. All these things I am happy to see. Again, I like the improvement from last week to this week, and that's how I'm judging these games. And it's really as bad as happy as I could be with the way the starters on offense were at this point. The getting into the third week in August.
Yeah, I mean that opening bomb got me jacked up, and I don't. I don't care if they win this game, whatever, but I want to see something from the starters that show me some life. And so to open up with a huge play like that to an undrafted free agent too, I specifically said going into this game, I made a quick video and threw it on Twitter beforehand, like the 5 players I want to watch and why I want to watch them. And Russell Wilson, what I wanted to see was I didn't want to see another 6 of 7 where every average depth of target was 5 yards. I didn't want to see that. It was like, he's famous for this moon ball. Let's see it, because I don't care about practice. That doesn't matter to me. I need to see the protection hold up long enough. I got to see him hit somebody in stride, and my God, did he hit him in stride.
Who else needs to see the moon ball too?
Malik
Other
Neighbors.
defensive, no, other defensive coordinators, because it's pretty easy to game plan for a team that everything is going to be, no deep threat downfield. So, everybody can creep up to the line of scrimmage and pack the line and stuff. Just seeing on film that not only did he have it in his bag, but he threw it to a guy who's not even going to make the team. It's just something to think about and start game planning as the season gets ready, when they start implementing their game packages and their game plans.
And the other thing, we were talking about the starters playing for longer, and I think that in my evaluation of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen going into this year, there was plenty of clamor about why one or both of them should be fired. And they're compelling arguments, and I cannot say that I fully disagreed with them, but I did disagree. And where I came from was we made a decision as an organization to hire a young first-time GM and a young first-time head coach. And I had said that they made mistakes, but were they learning from those mistakes? I'm not totally sure, but it does look like they are learning from them. And the biggest thing for me was, is Brian Daboll getting harder on his players? Because what worked for him in 2022 was nobody was locked into anything. Everybody was like, oh, geez, like every seat is hot, and everyone had to earn everything. Darius Slayton didn't even earn starter reps till like week 3 or 4, and that's like been the leading receiver since he got here.
Right.
And Deonte Banks is in a legit roster spot battle for the starting corner opposite of Paulson Adebo. I think he's been hard on the players. I think he's made them work. These guys are not getting just time off. The guys that aren't practicing are hurt. Malik Neighbors is hurt. He's got some kind of back issue. Dexter Lawrence is recovering from a dislocated elbow. And Andrew Thomas is coming back from a broken foot. So the guys that are coming back, they're being brought along slowly. Everybody else is playing. Russell Wilson is one of those players who's been around long enough that if he were more of an asshole, which we were led to believe a couple of years ago that he is an actual dick, and I've never met the guy. Maybe he is. Maybe everything is a totally fake front. But nevertheless, he could be that guy that doesn't want to practice, and he's not that guy. Or even if he is that guy, he's practicing, and Daboll's making him play, and he's playing. So I am happy with the learning from mistakes narrative that I've built. It seems to be working in the way that I thought. So I am thrilled to see how much they've been practicing. Certain guys staying on the field, getting extra time. Evan Neal got time with the starters. Bobby Okereke stayed on with the twos. Deonte Banks last week stayed on with the twos. So, yeah, I'm thrilled that these guys played for as long as they did.
Something, I wonder if this decision to do this was made back in January, when the decision was made that we're staying with everybody, we're staying the course, and kind of de facto extended them by letting them draft a quarterback. That there are some conditions, and some of those conditions are this team can't look like dog shit coming out of the gate like they've had the last couple of years. And maybe that's one of the kind of like themes going into this offseason. It was kind of getting this team more prepared in July and August for when September to happen.
Well, I mean, are you saying like a command coming down from John Mara?
I don't know. Command might be a little harsher, but like, I would like to see this team look more ready on week 1. You're the coach. You determine how you're going to do that, but you could, I think it's perfectly, fair for an owner to say, these are some things I'd like to see. And I think one of those was, we can't keep doing this. And, from there, I think that maybe that could be something that kind of change this little change in philosophy of how camp and these preseason games have been addressed.
I mean, that could be. No matter how you slice it, I like to think of it as self-evaluation and where they could have gotten better. And I certainly think they could have been harder on the players. But So I want to talk a little bit about the running game too. I thought Tyrone Tracy looked pretty good on a few runs. Now let's start by saying something here. This is not a podcast where we're going to sit here and shit all over the New York Jets. That's like not really the goal here. The Jets have a good defensive line. The Jets have a good team. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why with Aaron Rodgers they were, a Super Bowl favorite in terms of I don't know about favorite, but like it was not ridiculous for as many people to say what they did was that they could go to the Super Bowl with the roster they have. They have very good guys in the trenches, both offensive line and defensive line. They have great corners in the back end. They had one of the best wide receivers in the game. The Jets are not a bad team. That being said, I thought Tyrone Tracy ran pretty well on a few runs. I think he went 7 carries for like 40 yards or something like that. But what more important is that he just showed good patience and vision with his cuts, because it's not like holes were super wide open for him. He kind of had to like be patient, let guys pick their gaps, and then kind of put his foot in the ground and go the other direction. And I thought he looked pretty good against a good defense.
Jets are there's a Sam Darnold away from being a legitimate threat to win the Super Bowl.
I think you'd find very few Jets fans who agree, but we'll get to Justin Fields in a little while. But I agree with you.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, Jet fans are in their own. We're not going to shit on Jet fans, but I am for a second. I mean, the excitement they have for the importance of this game to them. If they want to put this up in a banner next to their Super Bowl III banner, go for it. But no, I mean, exactly to your point. And forget Sam Darnold. Put quarterback X, who is a second tier quarterback. That's all they are away this team from being really dangerous. Regular season team, and even in the postseason, they just don't have a quarterback. But all the other pieces of it are very solid. So I completely agree. I think you're seeing. I also think that everybody has an opinion of what the Giants are and a perception of what the Giants are, that, you're going to see more of a running game than people expect, I think. And guys like Tracy are, they're going to have a little more room to run. This offensive line is not as bad as people think it is. And I think the more you're seeing them play together, and again, without their best offensive lineman, we might probably not going to see till week 1, they're gelling. And they're especially that starting unit. So it's good.
Yeah, I think without question, James Hudson is the one bum out there. But I agree. I think that first of all, that 80-yard bomb to Bo Collins, I know they have 2 tight ends in helping, I think both on the left side during that play. But granted, that was like a 60-plus air yard throw. That just takes time. You don't get, and like that was not a rushed throw at all. That had plenty of time for him. He had plenty of time to bait the safety into coming in too hard on the vertical, and that he got totally behind on the post. And
he went to his left and he almost like cocked for a second, and then he kind of uncorked it. It was a lot of time from snap to throw, and then a lot of time in the air. So that was a long developing play, like for our standards, extremely long.
Yeah.
And something, it's okay if there's 2 tight ends back blocking. I mean, that's football.
It's just good design.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was pretty pleased with what the offensive line was able to give. No Quinnen Williams, I understand. But nevertheless, I don't have like the highest level of opinion of John Michael Schmitz. They do have, the most important position on the line is being played by a backup that I don't have a high opinion of either. Our right guard is basically my age. I mean, me and him can reminisce about Sega Genesis. Oh
boy.
For them to have what looked like clean pockets, plenty of running room. This was a functional offense. And I'll take away the interception for Russell Wilson. I still don't think he should have thrown it, but because I don't think that Bo Collins has a play to make on that. But I can easily chalk that up to a miscommunication between a undrafted wide receiver and a quarterback that's been here for a couple of months.
Watching it in real time, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, that's a cross up. That's a pick. That's not on Russell at all. You know, but I do want everybody to kind of temper the excitement for it because they're looking good in like 2 and 3 and 4 snap a series. The big test is going to be once you get to the regular season and they're playing 9 and 10 series, how they're going to hold up over a whole game. But from what we're seeing in these little morsels of it, it's definitely encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I'm not hanging a banner over this game and parading
Yeah.
around, Florham Park in blue, is because number one, it's a short game. These guys are playing the few couple series they are, and they're moving on and cycling in new guys. The other thing is it's completely vanilla defenses. So,
Mhm.
however, you don't just look bad in the preseason and then it just clicks week one. Like you end up looking good in the preseason first and then it clicks going forward. So
Yep.
it is check mark number 2 of 3 of the way this team looked on offense. I do want to say what were your thoughts on Bo Collins? This undrafted free agent wide receiver had earned his way to starter reps, even though, I know Malik Neighbors is out, but Darius Slayton was not out. Jalen Hyatt was not out either. So he got himself onto the field early and caught that pass early. What do you think?
I think there's more competition for that last wide receiver spot, and I think rising tide raises all ships. If he's someone who's going to fight with, for like Little Jordan Humphrey or something to win that last spot, and he outplays him, and the level of play is higher, then good. I mean, having a highlight play like that where everybody sees it, and especially when it's a Jet Giant game, it's going to help his chance for making, the Giants, or it's going to help him latch on somewhere else if we cut it on cutdown day too.
Yeah, and I'll say this. This was not like a Victor Cruz moment where
No.
Victor Cruz was splashing in camp and then he goes out there and he was absolutely unstoppable no matter who was on him. I mean, it got to the point where even the quarterbacks were like, I'm throwing to 3. That's what I'm doing. And the Jets
Yeah.
couldn't stop it. There was nothing they could do to stop it. This was not that, but it was more than just the 180-yard bomb. He also had a good block on another play. So he's doing all the things I think he needs to do to fight for that last wide receiver spot on the roster. I did not watch his special team snaps because I'm not a psycho. So we'll see what his roles are with that.
I think if he would have shown a little afterburners after the catch and score without anybody touching him or something, that might be another check mark in the
Correct.
data point in the thing. But you know he did get caught, and maybe he takes a better angle, and maybe that way he can try to score or something. But I'm not trying to downplay the play at all. It's a fantastic play. It's probably the highlight of training camp of the preseason so far, and good for him. But he's earned the right to make week 3 Thursday night interesting for himself to try to make this team.
I
Because he'll
agree.
probably he'll probably have more, because we get to that game 3 is kind of treated as a throwaway game anyway. So you'll probably see guys like him get more snaps than they would have in a week 2 or week 1.
That's certainly possible. Yeah.
Mm.
Let's flip over to the defensive side with the starters. And this is an opportunity to talk a little bit about Justin Fields.
Mm.
Number one thing was I thought that if one guy really showed up, it was Cordell Flott. Cordell Flott with his pass breakup on Garrett Wilson on 3rd down was everything that Deonte Banks... Well, this is the most common thing that people reference that Deonte Banks doesn't do. And it's just play the ball. So, Cordell Flott is not in the best position. He's beat on the inside. Garrett Wilson is open, but he is not giving up on the play. Runs in. He's got his eyes where they need to be. Gets a hand in there and breaks up the pass. Was beautiful. I still think that the ideal guy for this defense to play opposite Paulson Adebo is someone who's a bully at the line of scrimmage, because I think if you can disrupt route timing, and if this defensive line is as good as we hope that it is, we still haven't seen it with Dexter Lawrence, so I'm salivating at that idea. But if you can take away those short passes by screwing up stuff at the line of scrimmage, I mean, you're really putting the onus on a quarterback to figure out something, or an offensive line to pull something out of their ass to hold everybody back. But nevertheless, Deontay Banks, got beat on an inside move by Josh Palmer last week. Cordell Flott stood his ground against Garrett Wilson. We're going to spend some time shitting on Justin Fields. Was a good throw.
Mm-hmm. It was a big play. It was a big play. Yeah, it's especially because Deontay Banks didn't play. This was really going to be his spotlight game, and he made the most of it. Yeah, this is not like, okay, I'm going to do a series and you're going to do a series and maybe I'll come back. It's like, kid, you're going to get the majority of the snaps. You're going to be playing quite a bit. We're going to get a lot of tape on you and really make a fair assessment of you. And he made the most of it.
Some defensive line notes. So Brian Burns had a tackle for loss. He's been one of those guys, because of Abdul Carter. Beat reporters have been saying, Brian Burns is having an excellent camp. It's just going under the radar because of how good Abdul Carter is, and he's the new shiny toy. He had a tackle for loss. He looked pretty good. Kayvon Thibodeau put Armand Membo, just had him crossing his feet, just totally screwed up, and got right in there on a play and screwed it up. I thought this was another game where Roy Robertson Harris stepped up. And it's not a free agent signing that I was thrilled about. I didn't really get it. Maybe, and the more I've looked into Roy Robertson Harris, I think now I get it a little bit more. I was looking strictly at his most recent season, 2024. 2024, for whatever reason, after the first 3 games, Jacksonville just decided he was going to play on the edge. And then he got traded to Seattle, and they decided he was going to play on the edge. Career-wise, he played on the inside in that 3 technique spot, or just covering the B gap in general. And that's where he really makes his money. So he's not somebody that
landing spot for him.
I guess so. I don't know the methodology for why Jacksonville switched gears after a couple of games. They're the ones who gave him his biggest contract of his career. At one point, they gave him some 3-year deal worth millions and millions of dollars, and they've been playing him in that defensive tackle spot. Then last year, for whatever reason, after a couple of weeks, they decided that wasn't for him, and maybe there's a logical reason for that. You know what I mean? Maybe there was an injury or something.
Or they're just Jacksonville.
Or they're just Jacksonville.
They've been making bad mistakes for years and years now, and
Duval. Yeah. Yeah. So, but another good game for him. And one of the things I was afraid of was that he wasn't going to be very good against the run, but he's been okay. And I think it's possible that some of his deficiencies in the run game can be covered up by the surrounding talent. And again, we're seeing him next to Nacho and not next to Dexter Lawrence right now. So,
Yeah. You could, on the surface, you could give the defense a fart for, for stopping the run, but let's be fair. Without Dexter Lawrence, it at best is a silent but deadly fart. It's not a real fart because you don't have your most important player who does the most important work on that particular thing. So I can't kill them for it because you're missing such an important piece.
Yeah,
I am going to get worried though, if this continues to keep up, and there's going to be times when he can't play every snap. We've learned that he has to be able to take a breath, and when he comes off the field, it can't all of a sudden be, a sieve.
Yeah, there's 2 sides to this, right? Number one is, you're right, they're missing their most important player on defense, and it directly affects the run defense. Number 2 is, it's not going to just solve the problem. There is a problem here. And I think in this game, what was really particularly bad was when ball carriers were getting to the second level, they're getting 3 yards upfield. The contact being made by the guys in the secondary was where we were really falling apart. We had Micah McFadden was just not playing well. He got absolutely flattened on one play by linemen pulling up to the second level. Guys like Dane Belton and again, Tyler Nubin didn't play. I think Tyler Nubin is a much better tackler than Dane Belton. But you had guys in the secondary getting carried for another 2 yards after making contact. So, yes, was it a successful run by the Jets? Yes, absolutely. The hole was there. They ran through it. It's just that it looks so much worse when you're getting carried backwards and, you get contacted at yard 4 and it's a 7-yard gain.
You think that's a partial effort thing, knowing it's preseason with those guys that you mentioned?
I don't think so. I think that would be silly if it is. You're in
Oh,
a
I didn't say it was intelligent or not, but you think like either subconsciously or something. It's it is a preseason game, and they're not gonna
well,
go
I
in
mean,
110% like they would in
aside
the
from the
preseason.
this is work and you're getting paid to do this thing, like you have somebody bullying at me. I'm sorry, like boxing is boxing, whether it's a match that counts or
I
another match that doesn't count, right?
I'm not defending it. I'm not just saying is that I'm trying to look at this as kind of glass this half full about that. So
Well, I mean, again, I think the Jets are actually very good. I think they're good at running the ball. I think they have two good running backs that do two different things very well. Brees Hall is very fast, shift, guy who can burst through the hole. Braylon Allen is a guy who can just, he's like
and we
that Big Ten guy that will just
and to your
plod.
point, we'd game plan this too. We didn't
Yep.
game plan this. We just went out there and said, you know, here's our standard defense, execute our standard defense. We didn't have any wrinkles or, anything, installed for this particular opponent.
So one of the reasons why again, I do think that if I have to pick like the things that worry me about the defense, it's going to be whoever's playing cornerback two. I'm not going to feel super solid about that, and the run defense, and that's not going to change whether Dexter Lawrence comes back or not. However, I really thought that Roy Robertson Harris was like an absolute negative in the run game. And I feel like I've been almost proven wrong after 2 games. So, how much better does Roy Robertson Harris get with Dexter Lawrence eating up a double team next to him? I can't say anymore. 3 weeks ago, I would have said, like, it doesn't matter. He's probably not going to play. It's probably going to be Nacho in those scenarios. Now I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. So it's not good. I'm not going to lie to anybody and say that the run defense is, it's going to be fine. Dexter Lawrence is going to come back. It's not true. But will it get better when Dexter Lawrence is here? I think so.
You know what also helps a run defense too? When a team doesn't they can't run as much as they want to by having a much better offense on the other side. You
Oh,
know?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're down 3 scores, if it's 17-0, you got to stop running at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just like yeah, if you're up 17 if you're up 17 nothing, you're just going to just run, 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 and lean, lean, lean on it too. So put them in a position where they have to semi-abandon it, and you can kind of mitigate a little bit of the sieviness that it could potentially be.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And
I
we
feel
have
like I've
and
been
we have the
saying that for
potential.
years.
Yeah, now we have the potential at least this year to have at least a competent offense. So it's not okay. We're just gonna sit back and just run the ball and run out the clock of this game.
Um, let's talk a little bit backups now. I thought that the starters looked pretty good on both. I mean, again, I know the Jets were running the ball a lot, but Justin Fields wasn't able to do much of anything throwing. And when he did scramble the one time, it was not backbreaking, held to a field goal. I don't think any Jet fan is happy with what they saw from their offense, so that makes me very happy. Jumping to the backups, let's get into our Jaxson Dart talk. So we did not talk about Jaxson Dart much last week, and I'm a little glad that we didn't. Because now we can look at 2 games in aggregate and we can't overreact to a small sample size. So last week with the beautiful throw about 35, 36 yards in the air to Lil Jordan Humphrey, who he threw open. It's not like Lil Jordan, like Bo Collins, Russell Wilson's also kind of like baited Andre Sisco into getting out of position. But once he did that, I mean, Bo Collins was wide open for him to throw to.
Right.
Jaxson Dart just threw Lil Jordan Humphrey open. It was just the perfectly placed ball for a touchdown. And then otherwise looked pretty efficient with a couple of bad balls. This week, Jaxson Dart went 14 of 16 for 137 yards, a very nice touchdown to Greg Dulcich. He also rushed for another touchdown on a quarterback sneak. He was heavy on the up-tempo stuff. The quick passing game looked good. But he did have some good throws downfield. And my favorite throw was a throw to Montreal Washington over the middle, where he could have taken the underneath to Gunnar Olszewski and decided not to, and took the more aggressive throw further downfield and hit Montreal Washington perfectly in a tight window.
I like to see quarterbacks who look downfield first and then come back, as opposed to, I'm looking short, short. Oh, someone's open. I'm going to throw down. So he has that kind of having that vision of looking downfield first and looking for something, that's something you can build off of, and that's innate. You can't teach that. So that's a great building block for a quarterback to have.
So, I mean, I guess let's talk a little bit more generally about Jaxson Dart. So
Sure.
you watched Jaxson Dart at Ole Miss. You were at the Ole
Hmm.
Miss Florida game where he actually
Yes.
melted down at that very end, but otherwise I thought was pretty good in that game. I thought that he had a good first half in that game. Um, Now you've seen him through two preseason games. He is presumably the future of this franchise. How do you feel, Cranky fan?
Well, I mean, again, I am not an overreactor to preseason and the last play I saw and the last drive I saw and even the last game I saw. Just because, he's I don't get overexcited for seeing great things in preseason as much as I get a little alarmist when I see really bad things in preseason. And seeing we are still in the evaluation period of where we are starting with Jaxson Dart. I think the coaches they're trying to throw the kitchen sink at him. They're trying to make him uncomfortable. They're trying to give him opportunities to see where is the baseline with Jaxson Dart. You know, is this year truly going to be a hold the clipboard and watch and learn because you are still pretty raw, or are you someone that maybe actually can contribute at some point this year before you know the season is termed dead, and we administer last rites, you're not making the playoffs. Um, I think we are seeing a quarterback that, doesn't have the deer in the headlights and doesn't look scared and doesn't look like it's overwhelming. Um, that, and again, let's put it in perspective. We drafted this guy to be the future of this franchise. We traded up. This administration is basically hanging their hat and their employment on his success. So the fact that he's completing passes and doesn't look like Justin Fields, for example, don't all of a sudden, start camping out in Canton waiting for his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. But it means we are starting at a higher baseline of where he's beginning from. And that's impressive. One thing, Grump, I have a question for you, and I don't know if I just missed this or not. I was reading the article in ESPN, like the post game, like the high level post game, and he said, he's playing well, but he's still the backup behind Russell Wilson. And I'm looking at the depth chart on ESPN right now. He's listed second ahead of Jameis. Did I miss an announcement from Dable or something, or is he actually been moved up in the depth chart? Because that would be very interesting to me.
I think that's just a preseason depth chart for how they're distributing snaps, and that's how it's been for 2 weeks now. So last
Okay.
week he got the reps with the twos, Jameis with the twos and threes, and same thing for this game. He was the first quarterback in after Russell Wilson was put down like he's a dog. After Russell Wilson went to the Pine,
Put to sleep.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean I don't think that that's an official depth chart for once the regular season starts. I mean we'll see. We're already seeing like the national media, like the more extreme people saying that he should be the starter and Russell Wilson should sit, which is stupid.
That's
Uh,
silly. That's silly. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people that think he should be the first guy off the bench. They have a very smart plan where he is in the best position to succeed, and that is to be holding the clipboard this year, coming in only when they feel he is ready, not when Russell Wilson gets hurt. So whenever you're quarterback two in the depth chart to me, you are the first guy up when someone gets hurt. So that would be silly to me, but there's been no like announcement. I mean, the announcement has been every single like time Brian Dable's behind a microphone, some asshole is like, "Is Russell Wilson still your starter?" And he's like, "Yes, Russell Wilson's the starter. That's the plan."
And
So
remember something too. It's very important. Fans want immediate change, and they want you to change on a dime if they don't like something. The plan, really, since the day he was drafted, started, and they've been implementing this plan each day, each week, each month. And the expectation is, because remember, they signed Jameis Winston first before they drafted him, was we are going to move at this pace to have him ready. Now he might be, you know, playing above what their expectation is, but that doesn't mean they're going to deviate from their plan because he's looking better in still a limited data set of snaps into preseason games. So, I get, this depth chart might say in a second that article might have incorrectly said he's still the backup behind Russell, but I think that, I'm still perfectly comfortable exactly what this plan is, and having Jameis as the backup in case, break the glass for a snap, a drive, a game, 3 games or something. I mean, whatever they're doing now seems to be working with Jaxson Dart. Continue what your, thought out plan has been and executed to what you planned it to be.
And I think they've given him a little bit more each time that he's had to do something, whether that be in practices, in pre-practice prep, I guess put the screen in front of them and stuff like that. And now in games, it's been a little bit more. I do think that a lot of what they've handed him is a comfort thing. It's been training wheels. What I mean? Like, it's bullets are flying, but, these are all the things you're very comfortable with.
Well, how'd you like the one player they threw him in and just said for one play? How'd you like that?
So in the moment, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, obviously, I was like, all right, Jaxson Dart's in the middle of this drive. And then he came out after the one play, the one very good play where he's on his feet and he gets the screen pass out to Theo Johnson, who then takes it upfield for like 30 yards. And I think it was released that it was, a kid on his toe. Are you thinking on your feet? Are you paying attention? Are you ready to just jump in at a moment's notice? And I guess that counts as passing. You know what I mean? Like, just because the play resulted well doesn't mean necessarily he did everything right. He might have forgotten to move somebody in motion or see something pre-snap or whatever that we don't know about. But it certainly looked good.
And also, it wasn't just a simple little screen pass, out to the tight end and he took off. It was one of those. He created an arm angle that, if he just was like going back there as like a robot and executed the play as per plan and just do it like over it, may not have worked. So he has a little bit of that kind of, Josh Allen-y, Mahomes-y type of, I can do little different things with different arm angles and stuff and extend plays and create a little something out of nothing, which is, also can get you excited as a fan as well. He has that quiver in his,
arrow in his quiver.
That arrow in his quiver, or a quiver in his arrow, whatever. Your boat.
So I guess there's a fake rumor Twitter account that thinks or is reporting that there are rumors that teams are calling the Giants for trade details on what it would take to get Jameis Winston. I'm not sure I believe it, but I guess I kind of believe it. I could see it, but getting calls for it is not the same. And you should always listen to any trade call you get because you never know how silly someone might be.
Did we just go through this bullshit with the trade deadline in baseball? Because just because people are calling you does not mean you're stopping the guy.
Right.
You're getting calls.
And if it's me, you have to blow me out of the water. Again, you've went into this, and remember, jobs are on the line here for this to work. And Patrick Mahomes didn't play until very late in his rookie season. That's Patrick Mahomes. Somebody that Andy Reid liked that had like this cannon of an arm, and he was sitting behind Alex Smith.
Jordan Love didn't play right away.
Yeah. So, well, who knows exactly all the reasons why. But
that's true too.
Yeah, I mean, blow me away with an offer for Jameis Winston, I dare you. I mean, like, everybody knows Jameis Winston is on a backup quarterback contract. He's not viewed as any. The last time he was a full-time starter, I think, was Daniel Jones' first year in 2019 when he was with the Bucs, and that was his famous, 33 touchdowns to 30 interceptions a year. Yeah.
Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston.
Right.
He will always be Jameis Winston. He's a very good Jameis Winston, but that's all he is. I'm serious. He's a very good Jameis Winston.
Just have a way with words, my friend.
I mean, it seems really silly now. I mean, if somebody had I haven't heard of any starting quarterbacks who got hurt yesterday or this weekend or out for the year and they're in desperate mode. I mean, I think most coaches know what they have right now going into the season. There's no unexpected, oh, Jesus, quarterback X is out. We need somebody just to get through this year. Then then it's different. But right now, we're basically status quo with everybody, right?
Well, the Jets lost Tyrod Taylor, and now they're rolling with Justin Fields. So I don't know. Maybe
But that's a backup. I mean, no
I'm
one's going to
I'm
knock your socks.
joking.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's tough to tell with the Jets quarterback situation.
I know. Um, we have to talk about. There's some other guys on offense I want to talk about backups, but we have to talk about the backup offensive line. And three guys in particular, four guys actually, kind of in particular. Uh, the 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 big elephant in the room is Evan Neal. Evan Neal finally got his game action
Literally.
at right guard. Yeah, you like that?
Good
He
one.
finally got that action at right guard. We've been hearing about it, and a couple things on Evan Neal. Number one thing that we don't talk about enough is his inability to stay healthy. He has not
Yep.
just been a disappointment at tackle, to put it lightly, because my job here is not to make people feel bad or be mean, but he has been a disappointment at tackle. That much is understood. But he has also been hurt a lot. And the fact that he didn't play guard last week was, in my opinion, would have been troubling for him if he weren't so locked into a fully guaranteed $8 million contract this year as just part of the rookie deal. He goes into this game, and the announcement crew would not let you forget that he was playing. Um,
Oof.
in watching it, I can safely say that he does not look like a starter. He doesn't look like a starter. He looks like he has some of his natural attributes will fit better at guard than tackle. He is a big person that when he gets squared up, he is pretty good at anchoring down and preventing people from getting around him. However, laterally, he still moves like shit. He also is not out of his stance very quickly. He doesn't move his feet very much. He still makes mental errors. And also, he doesn't reset his hands very well. So one play, he actually was incredibly bad. His hands got swiped away from him, and I don't remember who it was, like Fidarian Mathis or something, just breezed right by him and laid a hit on the quarterback. That's bad. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not starter
Yeah.
quality. And, as much as I can sit here and say, Greg Van Roten is 35 years old, he's going to be playing Sega Genesis games with me. Greg Van Roten doesn't usually make mental errors. He's just at the point now where he's just a below average starter. A below average starter that's in the right place at the right time and is not completely letting guys go by him unblocked is better than some 24-year-old with all the ability in the world that just can't seem to get it right. And I thought that the marching orders given to Bob Papa and Carl Banks and Phil Simms were on full display for state media.
Evan Neal, his first round pickness is a sunk cost. His contract is a sunk cost. The fact he's even talking about so much is because it has been the fodder for sports radio conversation for 3 years about him. He's not being considered to be a starter. I mean, all we really want to get, whatever juice we want to squeeze out of this lemon, is that can you come in, spell Greg Roten for a little bit, and be a not a sieve as a backup guard. And if we can get that out of him for the rest of this year, so be it, and great. Um, we are grading this guy like he's going to be the second coming and changing this offensive line forever, and he's not. And you're right. You know, we did a whole thing last week about preseason football and broadcasting. I don't want to go through the whole thing again, but their job is, that's the only time in the whole year where you get to control the announcers in watching football, and you can, you're trying to sell tickets, you're trying to sell a happy storyline, you're trying to spin a positive, because Evan Neal's been talked about like shit for 4 years now on the Fan and wherever, and now you get the chance to change that narrative. The only problem is we're not stupid. We have eyes, we can see, and you sound silly. So it's tough. We have to go listen to Pravda or whatever the tests or whatever the Russian state media was, but that's kind of what it was. But it was like that's not what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a guy that is learning a new position. He's going to look okay in some snaps. He's going to look poor in other snaps. But my expectation for him is, I hope he doesn't have to see the field that much, because our starting Right guard is fine, and he only comes in for a snap or two because he needs to give a to to spell him, and he doesn't kill our quarterback in those couple of snaps he's in.
Um,
Case closed.
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that what I had to watch was state media through the Kim Jong Papa and Vladimir Banks giving us exactly what we're told to hear. I think the problem gets compounded a little bit here. Like, I understand the financial ramifications here. It's a fully guaranteed $8 million contract. That's why he's basically a roster lock. But I mean, if I'm really evaluating the backup guards, so I mean, if I'm really evaluating, and I did this too. I the next day after the game, I thought about it all night, and I was just disappointed the more I thought about it. And the next day, I spat it off like a quick thing on Twitter. Also, was basically, I would be surprised if the Giants keep 10 offensive linemen, and we're not really ready for a 53-man roster projection yet. But just bear with me for 5 minutes here. You have so you're probably looking at 9 offensive linemen, and part of me is saying that is because we have 4 tight ends that are kind of, some good player is not going to be there, or a draft pick is not going to be there, and you have 4 running backs where guys that are impressing might get cut. So we're limited in numbers here, and it's not like our offensive line is great to the point where, okay, whatever. I'm overstating my point here. Yep. But here's our starting 5 is Andrew Thomas, John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, Greg Van Roten, and Jermaine Illuminor. So that's your 5. Your backup tackles are absolutely going to be Marcus Bowe, because he's a 5th-round pick, and he's looked absolutely excellent this preseason, and James Hudson, because you gave James Hudson a lot of money, and he's your veteran. Now that's 7. So you've got 2 spots left, and you've got Evan Neal basically locked in there for no reason other than $8 million are tied to him. And you've got Jake Kubis, who I know is not somebody that people are like, oh my God, we can't let Jake Kubis go. But Jake Kubis has been here for like 1 year. He's somebody that can still be developed. He didn't look hard. He's a better run blocker than he is pass blocker, but he offers you right guard, left guard flexibility, and he also snaps the ball. He's been working on being a backup center this year. And in this game, we saw Josh Suzuki for the first time in forever playing left guard and looked objectively better than Evan Neal. And now one of those 2 guys is not going to make the... And by the way, Josh Azudu does offer you left side, right side versatility and can be a tackle in a pinch. He did it at college, and even though he was not a great backup left tackle, that's also the hardest position on the offensive line and should have never been his first position to begin with. So now, one of those 2 guys who offers you far more flexibility, why do they have to get cut? They get cut because why? Because Evan Neal makes a lot of money. If there's a pride element here in whiffing, I think that you should pride yourself on, first of all, guys don't develop. Some level of that oftentimes is the player himself. Just couldn't do it. Players still have to make the leap in the NFL. It's not on you always, the GM, because a first-round pick didn't pan out.
I think the pride thing went away when they started moving him to guard. I think that's the big hit on the pride part. Now now it's become like a salvage thing, and like, well, what are we gonna do with this guy? Let's try him at guard. Well, if he's not gonna work out there, I think it's easier to cut ties from a pride perspective because they've already admitted defeat with him. He's not going to be the right tackle of the future.
Well, I mean, so I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you there, and I know most of this argument is submarined by Jake Kubis is probably able to go to the practice squad without vanishing from the roster, and that's fine. But what do we think of Evan Neal after this year? I mean, he's in the final year of his contract. Is he going to be? First of all, he's not going to be pushing for a starting spot. I don't think he's good enough for that. I think he's too much of a liability. Is he worth re-signing as a backup? Yes or no?
We need a year to see him as a backup to make that call. I think it's a little early to make the.
Well, I mean, we as fans, we're probably not seeing too much of him as a backup. What is there to see? Like the few spots that he's got to jump in, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the coaches see him every day. They see every snap. They're going to see him throughout 17 games. I'm sure he's going to be on the field, at some point, maybe more, maybe than we want him to be this year. And if he's actually halfway decent, I don't think you're going to get him at what he thinks his market value is or what the market value could have been. But if you can get him, if he plays reasonably well in his role, and we can get him for relatively cheap, he might be back. Those guys are expensive.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I mean I get it.
what did we just talked about how much are we spending for Hudson? I mean, it's like you just said, we're paying a lot of money,
Well,
and
but I mean he's a
not going to change the
tackle.
world, right? But still, I mean, he's not going to change the world. So if it's a chunk of what he's getting, it's still going to be a lot to get a market value guy of his value on the open market. So
I think, and again,
I think it's still to be determined.
yeah, I was gonna say like I'm having my frustrations with it all, and I think if the announcers had just kept their mouths shut,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to harp on that. I'm just saying if they had, I don't think I'd have thought about it so much. I don't think I would have gotten as annoyed as much as I had after one game. One game where I got to see Josh Azudu at left guard, and one game where I got to see Evan Neal at right guard. So I mean, there's another game, so we can wait and see there. But right now, today, if you were like, you have to make a decision, are you re-signing Josh Azudu or Evan Neal? I'm saying Josh Azudu. I just am. But that would be silly, right? Because I saw one game from each of them at guard. So
Yeah, we don't have to make that call right now either. So
yeah,
the re-signing part, it may be
no, I know
who that last roster spot is, but for re-signing, I need more. I need more out of. Again, we have not seen Evan Neal in one NFL regular season game.
Do you think that you have a tinfoil hat around anywhere?
Sure, I do.
Are they gassing him up for trade value?
Probably not, because how many scouts are watching? They're not watching the local broadcast to hear what fucking.
Well, it was the NFL Network too.
Yeah, they're probably, if anybody's serious about making a deal, they're watching all 22, and they're having those conversations with scouts, and they're really, they might have somebody, at the game really watching for themselves too.
Okay.
I mean, it's an interesting thought, but I don't think so.
I mean, I really thought about this from as many angles as I could.
I really think what they're trying to do is, I think they want to turn the conversation away from something that is, he's kind of the poster boy for, him, and I think, and Daniel Jones, of what this administration's been since they've been here. They whiffed on a high profile, high draft pick, and they keep seeing him, and now they've moved him over so they can, okay, now that he's a guard, blow smoke up his ass and try to, make us see things that we don't see with our eyes. I think it's more for us.
I mean, I guess
than it is.
You're probably right? Because that's where my brain immediately goes, and I try to mental gymnastics my way into different things. But I guess what frustrates me is, again, did they whiff, or is this at least a little bit his fault? You know what I mean? Like, for just not getting better. Well, I mean, here's why. Here's the missing element here. They have no problem calling out Deonte Banks. They have no problem calling out Jalen Hyatt. They have no problem calling out the guys that they think need to step up. They just straight up say it. They've been very blunt this offseason. Why isn't he one of them? I don't understand why he just gets this pass. And, like, I guess, okay, he's been hurt, but, like, we've heard other GMs in the past say, like, this guy's got to stay healthy. It's part of what he needs to do. And it's an honest thing. Like, sports, to me, has been one of the last vestiges of a meritocracy, right? I mean, you got to just provide results, period. And those results may be on the field and they may be off the field, but you have to be a good football player. You have to be good at your position. You have to get results. Not getting results, I mean, it's just sometimes what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to make excuses for a GM, but I don't think that picking Evan Neal was a huge risk and he didn't pan out. Some of that might be on just Evan Neal.
Refresh my memory. Has there ever been a case where Evan Neal has shown an attitude problem or a sign of laziness or something to that effect?
He had some shitty remarks, I believe, in his rookie year when he was being criticized. He responded to reporters about, like, not being concerned about people who flip burgers, the opinion of people who flip burgers, which I
All
think
right.
that sentence can work for some players and not others, right? If you have a player who has been good and is having a bad year or is slumping, I think that you can get away with saying that. When you've never done shit and you still haven't done shit, and now we're in year 4 and you haven't done shit, it looks pretty bad in retrospect, right?
Right, but his attitude is generally thought to be pretty decent, right?
I think he's
He's
just viewed as quiet.
right, but he doesn't say things like he comes off as an asshole. He hasn't had like
No,
lack
I
of
don't think
effort
so.
things, right? Jalen Hyatt said last year,
Yeah.
"You better trade me if you don't like Deontay Banks." He's been benched for his attitude and for lack of effort on things. That might be the difference.
I guess so. I guess so.
You know,
Um, I don't want to spend too much time, but Marcus Bowe was at left tackle. I don't know if you were able to catch a glimpse of him at left tackle throughout uh, the majority. I think he played all the way to the end of the game once he went in there for James Hudson. Didn't really hear his name called much, and that's usually a good thing.
yeah. If you were, I mean, you kind of look like him, but if you were Brian Dable, who's your backup left tackle right now?
Oh my
Is it
God.
him?
I mean, I am not trying to say that James Hudson is a bad signing. Like, I mean, like a good swing tackle is a bad tackle, right? A draft pick, you never know how long it takes for them to develop. Case in point, the last 30 minutes of this episode. Um,
Eric Flowers.
yeah, really. It should be an open competition. I understand that they put the money into James Hudson. It's a good problem to have two backup tackles, isn't it?
We've had none for the last
It,
couple of years, and it's killed us.
to me, more at one position more than any other, the offensive line, it is important that you have the best players out there because their job is to protect the franchise. They're there to protect Russell Wilson and keep him upright. They're there to keep Jaxson Dart from poorly developing into David Carr. You know what I mean? So to me, when the bullets start flying, I want the guys out there that I trust the most to be in the right position and not to screw things up. And James Hudson is responsible for Jaxson Dart's only sack this preseason. Marcus Bowe, I think, has given up 2 pressures in like 100 snaps. In like double the amount of snaps 100's insane. I think it's like 65 or 70, but I think it's like double the snaps that James Hudson has. He's given up only 2 pressures. Hudson was spun completely around. I think it should at least be an open competition, and when time comes that Andrew Thomas, needs to nurse a hamstring or Jermaine Illuminor has a concussion or something, the best player should be out there.
Agreed. And you know something? You give me Andrew Thomas of 16 games, and I'll grow a third boob or something. It's not gonna happen.
But hey,
gonna have to,
we'll all be cheering for it.
Oh, it'll be our new profile picture. But no, I mean, you have to prepare for that eventuality that it's going to happen, and you have to be prepared for it. I like what I see out of Marcus Bowe. It's still we still have 2 more weeks of practice. We have 1 more game to go. We are all systems go for Andrew Thomas starting week 1, correct? Or is that still a question mark?
I mean, I'm getting a little concerned because it's not like it'd be one thing if they held him out of the game, but he returned to practice. But everything that we heard is that they are intentionally going as slow as possible with him. And it's I think they're kind of doing the same thing with Dexter Lawrence. It's just that with a dislocated elbow is not the same kind of injury as the foot of a big guy,
Right.
So I mean personally, I'm always worried that the next shoe is going to drop. So I'm starting to get a little shaky, but it seems like all is calm in Giants world. Sorry if I just punched the microphone there. So
Right, Rocky.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to talk about on backup offense, guys. Dante Miller. So, for context, I was probably the only person that was high on Dante Miller last year. They signed him to a 2-year deal, and I was like, that's significant. It was very eye-opening. I looked into it, and I was like, I can see why they like him, but I am I think they like him more than I realized because they wouldn't have signed him to this contract. They were afraid that somebody else was going to get this guy who was not able to join into the draft activities because of weird eligibility problems at South Carolina, and then like a lack of game tape at South Carolina because they thought they were going to get another year of him. So I mean, I've been on the Dante Miller train for a while. That being said, I acknowledge that he had a lot to learn still. He played at Columbia, where he was clearly the fastest guy on the field and was able to get away with things that just aren't going to happen in the NFL. And in that first preseason game, you saw some of them, right? No patience, bouncing things outside, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And I think against starters, more often than not, it's not going to work. He looked better in this game. He was more patient. He was able to put his foot in the ground and tempo his pace a little bit. He still looks best on the screens, where he's out in space and he can really just let that speed fly. And I think that that's still going to be the case. But I do wonder. So the screen game for 2 games now has looked immaculate for the Giants. It's looked outstanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not going to look as good against starting defenses. You get those smarter players and they're like, wait a minute, we're all busting through the line. Then they all start backing up. And now all of a sudden that throw to the running back isn't as easy. He's a little bit more crowded when he catches it.
And there's film. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I am trying to just tempo my expectations here. It's not because I don't think Turbo can do it or I don't like him or I'm devaluing him. I'm trying to make sure that he checks all the boxes before, I get in full bloom love or whatever. So, I think that there's a chance that maybe I don't know. Maybe he makes the roster as more like a special teams guy where he's like a gunner or something, or kickoff returns, and maybe he sprinkles in as a running back, or maybe this Cam Scadaboo injury lingers to the point where he's able to make the roster and then we reevaluate when Cam's healthy again. But I don't know. What did you think of Turbo?
I mean, he makes you think what you're going to do. I mean, we were talking before the show started about, I was wondering, if you can't make up your mind between him and Scadaboo is healthy and everything, what does that mean about Singletary and his roster security? And you said basically due to the money for no other reason he's not going anywhere. Maybe he's someone that's dangled for a trade or something. We are talking about running back 3 or 4. So I don't know. I don't think he shows stuff that gets me excited, but again, we're seeing it a lot against backups and third string guys. I mean, I almost wish that preseason in a way we can have one extra game and we can try things like the starters are playing, but like for example, I want to see Evan Neal play with the starters at right guard, see how he does, a better evaluation. Maybe I want to see Tracy play with against a starting defense to see how good he actually could be for something, because against competition he's doing now, he looks halfway decent, but I do have question marks.
Yeah, I feel you. I think that I think they're stuck with Devin Singletary mostly for the money, partially because I think he's the best third down back in terms of pass protection. He's the one that they're going to trust the most. He's clearly the best at it. The other 3 are still kind of figuring that out and learning it. If he's, but I do think that there's a debt out in Devin Singletary's contract next year. I think that they'd like to be shaken loose from him by that point, and I think that they would like a 3 running back rotation at that time. So I don't think that they want Dante Miller hitting the open market or being available for other teams to swipe. Right? I think ideally they would like all 3 of these guys to be fully developed, interchangeable, because they all have different skill sets. Tyrone Tracy is the best receiver of the bunch because he was a wide receiver first, and I think that he's the most starter material. Cam Scadaboo brings a completely different element to the game with less speed, more after contact stuff where he's going to get you the tough yards and that sort of thing. And Turbo's the straight line speed guy. So I don't know how they're going to be able to swing that. So we'll have to see, because unless Devin Singletary, and I think it would be a risk trading away Devin Singletary for that pass blocking thing. Again, to me, the most important thing in the world is that you keep your quarterback standing up straight. So if that means Turbo Miller's in there and runs the wrong way, and you get a free access shot from, I don't know, Jordan Davis just flattening Russell Wilson, that's not going to end well for anybody. And all because you wanted to save a couple bucks on a running back or whatever.
And that could change the whole trajectory of your season right there. So
I mean, jobs are on the line. Jobs are on the line with everything this season. So these kinds of decisions should not be taken lightly. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'm not saying do what I say. I'm just saying think very long and hard about what you want to do about this situation.
And we're talking about, again, a third string running back
exactly
against backups in the second preseason game in August.
Any final notes on this game? We're on an hour and 10.
No, we have a quick turnaround Thursday night against the Patriots. I actually will be attending.
Woo!
Yeah, me and Cranky wife are. Congrats to her on her new retirement. So we have more free time. We're gonna go to the game Thursday night. So
outstanding.
If anybody's around, we will be. I'll see if L16, if any of that crew is around. If not, we'll be in our normal seats, going to watching. I don't think it's going to be the normal meaningless third game like it usually is. I think you might see a sprinkling of. You'll see some position battles. I think that we want to see. I don't know if we're going to see Russell Wilson or not. I kind of don't think I really want to see him or any of the major guys. But let's see Turbo. Let's see some of these other. Let's see Evan Neal again. See how he does. So
see Jaxson Dart. Yeah, I want to know the Cranky wife assessment of Jaxson Dart. And I want you to give me some FOMO. Send me a picture from the Jameson room.
Oh, absolutely delicious.
All right.
And we are also 10 days away south of the border.
Oh man, don't think I have not thought about it.
Just saying here, if you look at this, even Bobby's growing a
little Pedro.
Yeah.
Yeah, so South of the Border live show with I think it's live. Giants Nation show. Excited for that. You are driving down. I believe he is driving up. I am driving west.
Insane.
So yeah, I'm excited for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then I'm going to probably know for sure about which games I will be attending at MetLife Stadium this year in the next week or two. I'm pretty sure on some of them, but I don't want to make any announcements until I am ironed out and I have like plane tickets and stuff all set. But you'll know before they know. Yeah,
the podcast world is on bated breath.
I know.
What is he going to do?
Yeah.
Will Howard Stern retire? Will Grumpy at the first game? Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to do it. We will. I think we're probably going to wait until Monday for. Do you want to do our normal time? You want to do maybe like Sunday or something like that? I don't think I'm going to be able to handle getting another episode out this week.
Yeah, we could go Sunday. I don't think this is the calm weekend. This is my last home weekend for the next 15 weekends. So yeah, we could do it Sunday.
All right. So then next Just Giants episode will be available for you guys Monday on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and of course YouTube. So be sure to stay subscribed for all those times that we go off script and don't go on our normal Tuesday mornings. Until then, we'll see you next time. Go Giants.
Go Giants.